Well, hello internets, here we are. We have ourselves a little bit of a vlog going on here. Well, I've faced quite a few setbacks this year. This spring. The weather has been very unsettled between, cold and warm, and then as it's warmed up here, into May, we got rain and cold, and a few days of, plus 16 Celsius or so, which feels, feels awesome. I really wanted to have been on one or two short little road trips or camping road trips for at least the first part of May, and then hopefully another couple in the last part of May. But because of the way things have gone and the weather and the way I've been feeling and such like that, I haven't been able to do the preparation I need for the road trip. Part of my problem that I'm facing is in the last couple years I've been, I believe, over analyzing and overthinking things. Still, of course, but it's gotten a lot worse now than what it ever used to be. I used to, when I did a road trip to Edmonton or Saskatoon, I would research every address that I was going to and write it down. I would research routes to get there, alternative routes and backup routes from that. I would research parking in the cities. Where was the pay parking? Where's the free parking? And even I would research where the motels were. I would research where the hotels were just in case I needed to stay overnight. And as a general rule, most of those road trips that I did back in the day that I planned out went out without much of a hitch. There was one time that I took a rock or a pipe cap from one of those vac trucks to my window, but that wasn't really something a guy could plan for. And then there was the last time the 2009 Canyon let me down, and that really wasn't something a guy could plan for either. And there was one time in the Silverado where I was caught in traffic and I was like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes late for an appointment. And if I would have had GPS, or if I wasn't driving a 5-speed manual transmission truck with a broken hand, I probably could have done my quick lane changes and got over on that exit before the construction. But because of, with the hand being broke, I missed my exit, and that caused me more issues. So generally, when I have planned things out, it worked out fairly well. And even in 2019, when I did the big epic road trip, it was essentially the same thing. I had planned out where I was going to sleep. I had planned out the towns I was going to visit, the other sites I was going to visit. And for the most part, it worked out okay. I chose not to go from Canmore into was it Banff and Jasper and further up that year. So that eliminated that leg of the journey, and I was already feeling a bit rough in Three Hills when stuff was going on there, and with Wetaskiwin, the bad campground there, I could have just stayed overnight at Walmart and then continued on with my journey from there. But I was already feeling rough, and I had to come home before my time was allotted to be up. But hey, that's the way it goes. Well, over the last year and a half, I've been compiling a new route list, new things to go see, and because of what's been going on in the world, my route list got set aside last season, and I decided to put it aside again. I'm thinking for this season. So I made myself a much smaller, much manageable route list to do that focuses more on an area that I'd like to go to, or would like to go back to. And of course, if you're going to drive from here to there, you might as well stop at a few towns in between. And then once you do what you're going to do in there, and you go to leave, well, then you might as well go out opposite from what you came in on, and then do those towns and those towns and those towns. And then a simple route list that only had, I don't know, 50 stops over a week turns into like 150 stops over, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks or longer. And it just becomes overwhelming, baffling when you're trying to dig up attractions around those towns and things to do around those towns. It becomes overwhelming and baffling, and then it ends up causing more trouble, which then leads to other things, which then leads to the insomnia, and then leads to more thought things. And I've some of the best moments in my life were spur of the moment, improvised, just hop in the old rusty truck and take off. Didn't have a tent, didn't have any provisions other than whatever beverages you bought when you fueled up the truck, kind of a thing. And if you slept in the truck, then great. If not, then you made it home before you got too tired. And as life became more and more complicated, things became more and more complicated. And your camping trips became not just a tent anymore. You're pulling a trailer, and then the trailer requires a larger truck, and then the larger truck requires replacing, and things like that. And instead of just sleeping in the back of your van or your truck, then you're in a campground, which costs money, which then you're worried about the budget and all that things. It's kind of weird how at least my brain works. Especially in the last few years, I'm kind of wondering if it has to do with what happened in the last few years of being in the house with overthinking, over analyzing, trying to figure out how to fix what's going on without causing more casualties than what was already going to happen. Trying to decide how to get a certain person out of what was going to happen to them just because they were associated with me. I made it work. I made it happen. I made it work. This person is free and clear, and walked away with basically, no one tar and feathering on my account at all. And however, I'm thinking I blew out a thinking gasket. I know there's probably a fancy term for it, but that's kind of what it feels like. And when things get overwhelmed or overstimulated, or loud noises, or things that it becomes too much and I have to shut down. And that's kind of where I've been in the last little while, pushing to get this trailer done, pushing to get the route list finished, pushing to get provisions ordered online so they're here in time, and trying to get things together for, another month or maybe a month and a half, getting things together for this, May or so run. However, that's kind of the way it goes, and I'm thinking that in order to keep going and have a bit of a life living with this, I need to simplify things even more than they already are. Keeping the basics, keeping the essentials, keeping what makes me happy, keeping what doesn't cost way too much to keep maintained. Whether it's the vehicles that I borrow, putting fuel in them, maybe having to downsize to a 4-cylinder rather than an 8-cylinder, and maybe a van rather than the camper to camp in. Maybe taking off smaller bites of the route rather than 100 stops in 3 weeks. I only do 20 stops or something in 2 weeks, and moving slower, enjoying the day, instead of waking up and being on the road and driving 700 kilometers and then going to bed and waking up and doing it all over again. And my 2019 trip was awesome. A lot of things I seen, but I didn't really retain much of it. I didn't really take in much of it because I was behind the camera. I was filming the museum, I was filming the waterfalls, I was filming, and I wasn't really taking in the breathtaking scenery. I drove a lot of kilometers, I seen a lot of sights, but I'd like to do it again, this time taking like twice as long, and actually maybe not filming as much as I did on the 2019 trip. But I guess it is what it is, trying not to get overwhelmed, trying not to get things going back in the opposite direction, trying to enjoy life, trying to get going again. I guess it is what it is, one step at a time, and around we go. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and enjoy.